The void of space was quiet before the storm. The stars looked calm, but something heavy was moving between them. From the darkness came a ship, slow at first, then faster, cutting through the black like a knife through water. It was not just a ship. It was a warship. Humanity's pride, built from steel, fire, and courage. The name on its side glowed faintly, HSS Valiant. Inside the ship, the crew worked in silence. Every face was tense. Every hand stayed close to the controls. Captain Arlen stood at the main deck, watching the map that covered the room's wall. Thousands of red dots flickered in the darkness, enemy ships. The enemy was not human. They called themselves the Targans, creatures of metal and light, built to destroy. 4 years, they had crushed every world they touched. But now, they were about to meet something new, human will. The captain's voice broke the silence. Status report. Engines at full charge, said Chief Engineer Rana. Weapons systems green. Shields stable. Good, Arlen said. His tone was calm, but his heart was racing. This mission was not meant to win. It was meant to delay. To hold the line long enough for the last colony ships to escape the system. Humanity had no other choice. A quiet hum filled the air as the ship powered up its main reactor. Lights flickered. The crew felt the vibration through the floor plates. It was like the Valiant itself was breathing, ready to fight, ready to die if it had to. Suddenly, alarms screamed. "Contact!" shouted the sensor officer. Multiple signals inbound. Fast movers. They found us. The crew jumped into action. Screens flashed red. The stars outside shifted as the Valiant turned to face the incoming threat. Tiny specks of light grew larger, enemy ships diving straight toward them. "Lock targets," said Arlen. "Open fire when ready." Rana hesitated. "Sir, they outnumber us 50-1. "I know," the captain replied softly. "Do it anyway." The first volley of human plasma torpedoes shot out, burning blue trails across the void. They struck the nearest Targon ships, tearing through their silver hulls. Explosions bloomed like small suns, bright and violent. But for every enemy ship that died, 10 more appeared. The Valiant shuddered as return fire struck its shields. The crew steadied themselves. Sparks flew from a nearby console. The smell of ozone filled the air. "Shields at 60%, someone yelled. "Keep firing," Arlen ordered. "They'll learn today what humans do when there's nowhere left to run." Minutes felt like hours. The battle outside was chaos, streams of light, bursts of flame, metal breaking apart. The Targans moved fast, mechanical and cold, but the humans fought like animals cornered. Every shot was desperate but full of fury. Deep in the engine room, Rana worked alone, sweat running down her face. The power lines were overheating. She had never seen readings like these before. If the reactor overloaded, the whole ship would vanish in a flash. But if it failed, they'd be defenseless. She looked at the warning lights and whispered, "Come on, old girl, hold together." Back on the bridge, Arlen's second officer, Jace, stared at the tactical screen. "They're surrounding us, sir. We can't hold this position." Arlen looked at the image of Earth in the corner of the display. Small, distant, fading blue. "We hold as long as we can," he said quietly. "Until the last transport clears the jump gate." "Sir," Jace said, voice trembling. "That could take another 15 minutes. Then we give them 15 minutes of hell." The captain opened a private channel to the fleet command. "Valiant to command. We've engaged the enemy. Evacuation continues. Tell the people. Tell them we're not going quietly." A burst of static was the only reply. The Targon fleet tightened the circle. Their ships moved like blades, fast and sharp. Blue energy beams cut across the Valiant's hull. Armor melted, rooms depressurized, but still the ship fought back. Forward batteries offline. Switch to secondary guns. Engine temperature critical. Override it. Rana shouted from below. "If it burns, It burns. The crew no longer spoke in full sentences, just fragments, commands, and fear. Yet no one ran. No one begged. They all knew what this meant. This was the moment history would remember, even if no one survived to tell it. Outside, the Valiant's weapons fired again. One last broadside. Torpedoes streaked across the stars, slamming into the Targon flagship. The alien ship cracked in half, its core glowing white before it exploded. For a moment, the night lit up like dawn. Cheers filled the bridge, but only for a second. "Captain," said Jace. "New readings. Something big, something massive just arrived." Arlen turned toward the viewing window. Out of the distortion of space, a shape appeared. Darker than night. Larger than anything human eyes had seen before. It wasn't a ship, it was a moving city, wrapped in lightning and smoke. The captain felt the air grow cold. So, that's their true weapon. The crew fell silent, staring. The Targon war machine had come. The odds were no longer 1 against 50. Now it was 1 against everything. Arlen straightened his jacket and looked at his crew. "We fight anyway," he said. "As long as one gun works, we fight." The Valiant turned toward the monster in the dark, its engines burning bright, ready to meet the impossible. The stars around them blinked like witnesses. Humanity's last warship charged into the unknown. And in that moment, nothing could stop it. The monster in the dark moved closer. Its shadow covered the stars like a dark wave swallowing the sky. The crew of the Valiant stood frozen for a heartbeat, staring at the enormous shape. It looked alive. Its hull was made of black metal that shifted and pulsed like muscle. Lines of red energy ran across it like veins. Every few seconds, something deep inside it glowed, as if it had a beating heart. "Distance closing," said Jace, his voice quiet, almost a whisper. "How big is it?" Captain Arlen asked. "Bigger than a city," Jace replied. "Sir, it's the size of a moon." A low vibration rolled through the Valiant's hull as the enemy ship released a deep, rumbling sound. It wasn't just noise, it felt like a voice echoing through the metal. Some of the crew covered their ears. Others just stared, pale and speechless. "What is that thing?" Rana's voice came through the comms, shaky and tense. Arlen didn't answer. He didn't know. But he knew one thing. This was no ordinary ship. This was something the Targans had built to end wars forever. "Prepare all remaining weapons," he ordered. "Target its central core. Let's see if gods can bleed." The Valiant roared to life again. Its engines burned white. Every gun turret, every missile bay turned toward the giant. The crew moved fast, no hesitation now. Fear was still there, but something stronger had replaced it: defiance. Fire! Dozens of missiles streaked into space, followed by bright plasma rounds. The explosions lit up the blackness like fireworks. But when the light faded, the monster still stood untouched. Not even a scratch. "Direct hits, no damage," said Jace quietly. The giant ship turned. Its front opened like a mouth, revealing rows of glowing red lines, energy cannons charging for a single, devastating shot. "Brace!" Arlen shouted. A second later, a red beam cut across space, faster than light. It hit the Valiant square in the front. The ship shook violently. Alarms screamed. The lights flickered, then went dark for a second before emergency power came back. "Damage report," Arlen yelled. "Forward shields gone. Hull breach on decks 3 through 6. We lost the medical bay." Sparks rained from the ceiling. Smoke filled the bridge. One officer fell to the ground, blood on his forehead. But still, no one ran. "Reroute power to rear shields," said Arlen. "If we can't stop it, we slow it down." Rana's voice broke through the static on the comm. "Captain, the reactor is overheating again. We can't keep pushing like this." "Then push harder," he said. "We're out of time." Rana closed her eyes and took a breath. "Understood." She ran her hand over the control panel and bypassed every safety lock. The hum of the ship's heart grew louder. The whole deck vibrated like it was alive. The lights glowed brighter. The Valiant was burning itself to fight one last time. Outside, enemy drones surrounded the ship. Small, insect-like machines with sharp metal limbs and red eyes. They moved fast, swarming toward the Valiant like a storm of knives. Point defense guns, open fire. Tiny bursts of blue light scattered across space as the Valiant's side guns tore through the swarm. For every drone destroyed, 2 more appeared. They crawled over the hull, cutting through armor, tearing at the metal like hungry creatures. On the lower decks, soldiers fought hand-to-hand. The drones had broken through in some sections. Sparks, screams, and gunfire echoed through the corridors. Humanity was fighting not just for survival, but for memory. Captain Arlen looked at the holographic map. The evacuation timer blinked. 3 minutes left. 3 more minutes before the last human transport cleared the jump gate. That was all they needed to buy. He smiled faintly. 3 minutes, we can do that. Jace turned toward him, eyes wide. Sir, the main gun, it's still charging. If we fire everything we have left, it might hit that thing's weak spot. Or it might tear us apart, Arlen said. Then at least we take a piece of it with us. Arlen looked at him, then nodded slowly. Do it. Jace's hands flew over the controls. The Valiant's main cannon, a long, glowing line across its belly, started to hum louder and louder. Energy built up, bright and unstable. The entire ship shook. Rana's voice came through again. Captain, power levels are spiking. The core won't hold. Just hold it long enough, he said softly. The crew watched as the enemy's massive ship turned again, charging another red beam. The space between them glowed like 2 suns about to collide. Ready, Arlen whispered. Fire. Both ships fired at once. The Valiant's cannon unleashed a brilliant white-blue blast that tore through the dark. The enemy's red beam met it halfway. The 2 energies collided, twisting and folding into a blinding storm. For a moment, it looked like the whole universe had cracked open. The explosion threw the Valiant spinning through space. The bridge lights went out completely. Everyone was silent. Only the sound of metal groaning filled the air. Reactor, offline, Rana said weakly through the static. Arlen coughed, pushing himself up. Did we hit it? Jace checked the screen. The enemy ship's front was gone, blown apart. A massive hole burned through its surface. It was still moving, but slower now, wounded. A tired smile spread across the captain's face. Good. Then we did our job. Outside, the monster ship glowed with strange light, repairing itself, forming new armor from the debris. The crew of the Valiant watched in silence as the impossible continued to move. Rana's voice came again, quiet but determined. Captain, I think I can restart the core. But if I do, it'll overload. It'll take everything with it. Arlen looked out the window at the growing darkness. Then that's what we'll do. One last strike. The crew exchanged looks. No one said a word, but they all understood. This was the end, but it would be their choice. Arlen stood tall. Prepare the core. We're going to ram it. The stars outside began to move as the Valiant turned toward the heart of the enemy ship, engines flaring brighter than ever. Humanity's last warship was dying, but it refused to die quietly. And as the wrecked, burning vessel charged forward, a single thought echoed through the captain's mind. If this is the end, then let it burn bright enough for the whole galaxy to see. The Valiant shook as it moved forward, its engines screaming in defiance. The bridge lights flickered violently, shadows dancing across the pale, tired faces of the crew. Outside, the massive Targon ship loomed like a living mountain, its torn hull glowing with molten metal and red energy. Every second brought the Valiant closer to the impossible. Core status. Captain Arlen asked, his voice calm but carrying an edge of tension. Rana's hands flew over the controls. Almost online, sir. But it's unstable. One wrong move, and we'll be vaporized instantly. Do it anyway, Arlen said. We're already committed. The crew watched as the ship's heart began to pulse with raw energy, a bright blue-white light that lit up the Valiant's interior. The vibration was so strong that metal groaned and consoles rattled. Sparks flew from the walls, burning the air with heat and electricity. Yet, in that chaos, a strange calm seemed to settle over everyone. This was it. The moment they had been waiting for, or fearing. Outside, the Targon ship's remaining drones swarmed toward them. They moved faster than anything the humans had ever seen, metal claws cutting through space. Arlen gritted his teeth. Point defense guns, destroy them all. We won't let them stop us now. Bright flashes lit the black void as the Valiant's turrets opened fire. Each shot exploded against the drones, tearing them apart. One after another, they fell into the emptiness of space, but still, more kept coming. The enemy was relentless. The crew could hear the alarms screaming, metal tearing, and human hearts pounding in unison. Captain, Jace said, his voice trembling, they're forming a shield around the core. If we can't break it, the explosion won't reach the heart. Arlen's gaze stayed fixed on the glowing mass of the enemy's ship. Then we break it with us. The Valiant surged forward. Its hull groaned, armor bending under the strain. Sparks flew from the joints. The engine flames burned brighter, hotter, as if the ship itself knew it had one chance to change history. Soldiers and engineers gritted their teeth, gripping consoles and walls, ready for the moment of collision. Rana's voice came over the comms, steady despite exhaustion. Core is fully charged. We'll be able to punch through the shield, but I don't know how long we can hold it. Hold it as long as you can, Arlen said. Then let it go. Outside, the Targon ship began to react. Its broken hull shifted, massive plates of black metal sliding over the wounded core. Red beams of energy shot toward the Valiant, cutting bright lines across space. The ship rocked violently under the assault. Crew members were thrown against walls, some landing with harsh thuds. The smell of smoke and burnt circuits filled the air. Shields at 20%, someone shouted. Keep moving, Arlen yelled. We're almost there. Time seemed to slow. The stars stretched into lines as the Valiant hurtled through space. The glowing enemy core grew larger with every second, a sphere of molten energy surrounded by deadly red light. It pulsed as if alive, beating like a monstrous heart. Impact in 30 seconds, Rana said, her voice sharp. 30 seconds, Arlen whispered, almost to himself. He looked around the bridge at his crew. Exhaustion, fear, determination, they were all there. He knew some of them would not survive. But he also knew this was their last chance to save millions of lives. Everyone, brace for collision, he shouted. The seconds counted down. 20, 15, 10. The Valiant's main cannon fired automatically as it neared the core. A beam of pure white-blue energy hit the enemy's heart, slicing through the protective shield. The Targon ship shuddered violently. It screamed, a sound that was not human, not machine, but a mixture of both. 10 seconds to impact, Rana said. The crew held on. Screams, alarms, sparks, and the violent shaking of the ship surrounded them. Some closed their eyes, some clenched their teeth, but no one moved from their post. They were humanity's last line. Then, the hull of the Valiant collided with the enemy's core. The explosion that followed was unlike anything they had ever seen. Light tore across the void, fire and energy erupting in every direction. The shockwave threw the Valiant backward, tearing apart sections of its armor. Consoles melted, and alarms screamed endlessly. The bridge shook violently, throwing crew members to the floor. Arlen held onto the railing with all his strength, staring through the chaos at the blinding light of the explosion. The Targon ship began to crumble, massive pieces of metal exploding outward. Red beams died out. The monstrous vessel groaned, then split apart, molten core burning through the empty space. Core, destabilized. Rana shouted. Keep firing. Arlen yelled. Destroy everything we can before it's gone. The remaining drones and weapons fell apart under the Valiant's desperate fire. One by one, the pieces of the Targon ship disintegrated, drifting into the void. Slowly, the stars returned to calm. Silence replaced the screams. The explosion faded, leaving only the distant glow of debris. On the bridge, the crew gasped for air. Blood, sweat, and soot covered their faces. Many consoles were destroyed. Fires burned in corners. Yet, despite the damage, the crew was alive. Captain Arlen looked out the viewing window. The black void was quiet again, the enemy gone, at least for now. Humanity's last warship had survived, barely, but it had done what it was meant to do. Rana whispered. We did it. Arlen nodded slowly. Yes, but it's only the beginning. There will be more of them. And next time, we need to be ready. The crew exchanged tired smiles, relief and exhaustion mixing together. They had faced the impossible, and somehow, they had won. For now, the Valiant floated in the quiet of space, wounded but unbroken. Its engines flickered, lights blinking weakly, but its heart, the heart of humanity, still burned. And somewhere, in the distant stars, the galaxy began to whisper the name of the ship that refused to die. The Valiant floated through the remnants of space battle, its hull scarred and smoking. Pieces of the Targon warship drifted past like silent ghosts. The stars looked calm, almost peaceful, but the crew knew better. Peace was temporary, fragile. The galaxy had just learned the name of a human warship that refused to die, but the fight was far from over. Captain Arlen leaned against the railing, staring at the debris. Every impact, every explosion from the battle still burned in his mind. He felt the weight of every life that had risked everything. Around him, the bridge was quiet, except for the faint hum of failing systems and distant alarms. The Valiant had survived, but it had taken a heavy toll. "Status report," he said softly. Rana's voice came from the engine room comms, calm despite exhaustion. "Shields are down to 15%. Engines are barely holding. Life support is unstable in 3 decks. We can limp back to base, but any attack on the way, we won't survive." Arlen nodded. "Understood. Plot the shortest course to human space. We need to get repairs before they come back." Jace, still at the tactical console, tapped rapidly at the screen. "Captain, debris from the Targon ship is unstable. We're detecting gravitational anomalies and micro-explosions. If we don't navigate carefully, the Valiant could be torn apart before we even leave this system." "Then we move carefully," Arlen said. "Every second counts. The transports need time to escape." The crew worked in tense silence, each movement precise. Sparks flew from broken consoles, and smoke curled in the corners of the bridge. Soldiers cleaned weapons and checked ammo. Engineers patched hull breaches with whatever materials they had left. Every breath, every heartbeat, felt like a small victory. Suddenly, a warning siren blared. "Captain." Sensors detecting multiple incoming objects. "Unknown signatures." Jace shouted. Arlen's eyes narrowed. "Unknown? Or more Targans?" "Unknown, but bigger than the drones," Jace replied. "Faster than anything we've seen. They're closing in on us." Rana's voice cracked over the comms. "Captain, we're not ready for another fight. The engines, they can't hold full thrust for long. If we go too fast, we'll tear the reactor apart." Arlen clenched his jaw. "Then we don't go fast. We go smart." Outside, streaks of light appeared in the distance, shapes moving with deadly precision. The crew's hearts sank. These were not the small drones that could be destroyed with turrets. These were predators. The Valiant was outnumbered, outgunned, and still wounded. "Lock all weapons on approach vectors," Arlen ordered. "We can't outrun them. We'll have to fight smart." The unknown ships approached like hunters circling a wounded animal. Their hulls glowed faintly, strange energy patterns running across their surfaces. The crew had never seen technology like this. Every instinct screamed danger. "Captain," Jay said, his voice trembling, "they're using some kind of adaptive shields. Our weapons may not even penetrate them." Arlen's eyes scanned the darkness. He knew humanity had survived worse. They had endured centuries of conflict, of impossible odds. And now, they were facing something that seemed unstoppable. But the human spirit had never been about giving up. "Then we find a weakness," he said quietly. "We always find a weakness." The Valiant shuddered as the first wave of energy beams struck its weakened hull. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, and the floor shook beneath the crew's feet. Soldiers fired at the incoming ships with whatever they had left. Plasma rounds hissed through space, striking armor that barely flinched. "Damage report," Arlen shouted. "Decks 5 and 6 breached." Rana replied. "Engines at 40%. If we keep taking hits, we won't make it to human space." "Then we keep moving," Arlen said. His voice was calm, unwavering. "Every inch counts. We can't stop. Humanity is counting on us." The unknown ships closed the distance. Their strange energy weapons carved glowing lines in space. The Valiant dodged, fired, and shuddered under impact. But each maneuver brought them closer to the human jump gate. Every second, every shot, every decision mattered. Jace looked at Arlen. "Captain, the core can overload. We could destroy everything in a wide radius. It might stop them all." Arlen's eyes flicked to the main reactor. Its blue glow pulsed, alive and dangerous. He knew what it meant. "That's a last resort," he said. "We survive first, strike second. We're not giving them victory yet." The crew worked tirelessly. Sparks flew, smoke curled, and the floor trembled beneath them. And through it all, the Valiant moved forward, wounded but unbroken. Humanity's last warship was limping toward safety, but danger was not finished with them yet. Outside, the stars stretched into long streaks as the Valiant prepared to make its final dash. The unknown ships closed in, faster than thought possible. The Valiant's hull creaked, every piece of metal screaming under the strain. But the human spirit inside refused to break. Captain Arlen stood tall. "Hold together, old girl," he whispered. "We're almost home. Almost. But we fight until the very last second." The unknown ships were almost upon them. Energy beams painted the void red. The Valiant's engines flared as it pushed its limits. Every person on board knew what was coming, and still, no one flinched. The human warship pressed on, the last hope of a species, limping through the debris, lights flickering, hearts burning. And in the darkness ahead, the jump gate shimmered faintly, a promise of temporary safety, and a chance to fight another day. But the unknown ships were closing fast. Too fast. And the crew of the Valiant knew one truth: surviving this was not guaranteed. Not yet. The jump gate shimmered in the distance, a swirling portal of blue light that promised safety, but also uncertainty. The Valiant's hull groaned under the strain of its damaged engines. Every meter forward was agony, yet every meter mattered. Humanity's last warship carried more than its crew, it carried hope. "Captain!" Jay shouted, pointing at the approaching unknown ships. "They're faster than anticipated. They'll reach us before we make the gate." Arlen's jaw tightened. "Then we make every second count. Full power to engines. Every last thruster, even if it tears the hull apart." Rana's hands flew over the console. "Engines can't handle full power for long. The reactor is unstable." "I know," Arlen said. "Then we burn it all. Humanity doesn't quit." The Valiant surged forward. Flames of energy streaked from its engines, white-hot trails cutting through the void. Sparks flew inside the bridge as consoles overloaded. Smoke filled the air, but the crew remained at their posts. Each movement was precise, every command urgent. They were fighting for more than survival. They were fighting to prove humanity would not be erased. Outside, the unknown ships accelerated. They were relentless, glowing hulls slicing through space, deadly and precise. The first energy blasts struck the Valiant, tearing at the weakened armor. Panels ripped off, smoke poured into the corridors, and alarms screamed endlessly. "Shields at zero," someone yelled. "Divert everything to engines and core." Arlen shouted. Rana hesitated for a moment. "That could blow the ship entirely." "Then we make it count," Arlen replied. The Valiant's core pulsed bright, energy spilling into the engines. The ship shuddered violently, then roared forward, faster than it had ever moved before. Outside, the unknown ships fired relentlessly, but the Valiant dodged, weaving through debris from the Targon fleet. Pieces of metal and fire trailed behind, like a path of destruction marking humanity's defiance. "Captain, we're almost there," Jace shouted. "Just a few kilometers." Arlen leaned over the railing, eyes fixed on the swirling light of the jump gate. "Hold together, just a little longer," he whispered. A massive energy beam hit the rear of the ship, sending the Valiant spinning. Crew members were thrown across the bridge. Sparks rained down like deadly rain. The ship's hull cracked audibly, threatening to tear apart. But the engine screamed, pushing the vessel forward through pain, through fire, through almost certain death. "Brace for impact with the gate," Arlen shouted. Rana's fingers flew over the controls. The core glowed brighter than ever, threatening to overload. Flames licked the walls. Smoke filled the room. And then, with a blinding flash of light, the Valiant entered the jump gate. Inside, reality seemed to stretch and bend. Stars stretched into lines, space twisting in impossible angles. The crew held onto whatever they could. The hum of the engines was deafening. Every second felt like an eternity. Outside, the unknown ships fired at the gate, but the vortex of the jump shielded the Valiant. For a brief moment, the crew could breathe. The impossible had been done. They had survived the first attack, limped through the enemy swarm, and jumped to safety. The Valiant emerged in human space, battered, smoking, but alive. Stars of a familiar system stretched before them. Planets that once felt far away now looked close. Relief washed over the crew, but it was short-lived. Jace looked at the screens, then his face paled. "Captain, sensors are picking up something. Massive. Bigger than anything we've faced. It's waiting for us." Arlen frowned. "Show me." On the main screen, a dark silhouette loomed near a nearby planet. The shape was enormous, larger than the Targon flagship they had destroyed, even more terrifying. Energy pulsed along its surface, strange and unfamiliar. Its sheer size made the Valiant look like a fragile toy. "Is that another fleet?" one of the soldiers whispered. Arlen shook his head. "No, that's not a fleet. That's something else. Something bigger. Something worse." Rana whispered, "If that moves, we won't stand a chance." The captain turned to his crew, determination hardening his features. "Then we warn humanity. We prepare. And we fight. No matter what comes next, we are not defeated. Not today. Not ever." Outside, the massive shadow remained silent, watching. The Valiant floated near human space, battered but alive, carrying the last spark of human defiance. The stars seemed calmer here, but the dark waiting in the void promised that the true war was just beginning. Captain Arlen's hand rested on the console. "They think we are finished," he said quietly. "They think they can destroy us. But they have never faced humanity like this before. And they will learn." The crew looked at him, eyes burning with fear and courage. Humanity's last warship had survived, against impossible odds. And somewhere in the vast galaxy, the message was clear: humanity would not bow, would not break, and would not be forgotten. The unknown threat loomed in the darkness, silent, waiting, massive, and the Valiant, though wounded, prepared for the battles to come. And the galaxy had no choice but to watch. The Valiant drifted through human space, its engines weak, hull scarred, and every system struggling to survive. The jump had saved them, but the respite was short. Captain Arlen stood on the bridge, staring at the dark shape looming near the planet, a silent, massive threat that radiated danger like a living storm. "Captain," Jace said, voice tight, "our scans are picking up energy readings unlike anything we've seen. It's alive, in a way we don't understand." Arlen frowned. "Alive or not, it's not going to wait for us to recover. How long until it moves?" "Could be minutes, could be hours," Jace admitted. "But when it does, it'll destroy everything in range." Rana wiped sweat from her forehead. "Engines are barely functioning. We can't outrun it if it attacks. Our weapons, they'll be useless at that scale." Arlen's gaze swept over the crew. Soldiers were checking weapons, engineers working frantically on consoles, sparks flying from damaged circuits. Every person on the Valiant was exhausted, yet none had given up. "Then we prepare to fight smarter," he said. "We'll turn what little we have into a trap. They may be massive, but we are clever. Humanity is clever." "Sir," Jace began, hesitant. "We don't even know what it is. It could destroy entire planets without moving. How do we fight something like that?" Arlen's jaw tightened. "We don't fight it like a normal ship. We fight it like humans always fight, by refusing to surrender." The crew worked quickly, rerouting power to the few functional weapons, patching shields, and reinforcing the hull where they could. Sparks flew, smoke curled, and the ship groaned under the effort, but slowly, the Valiant transformed from a damaged wreck into a machine ready to strike. Outside, the massive enemy remained still, like a predator waiting for the right moment. Its surface pulsed with strange energy, glowing and shifting in patterns no human mind could fully comprehend. Every second the Valiant spent nearby, the threat grew. "Captain," Rana said quietly, "we can try one thing. The core can be used as a massive energy pulse. It won't destroy the ship completely if we do it right, but it could destabilize their power field long enough to strike their weak points." Arlen's eyes narrowed. "And what are the risks?" "Failure. We're finished," she said bluntly. Arlen paused, thinking of Earth, of the colonies, of the transports they had fought to protect. "Then we succeed," he said simply. The crew moved into position. The main cannon hummed again, powered by the core's energy. Turrets were loaded. Soldiers braced themselves. Engineers monitored every system, ready to sacrifice anything to make this work. "Captain," Jace said, "they're sensors, they know we're here. I can feel it. Something is tracking our every move." Arlen looked at the glowing shadow on the screen. "Then we give them something to track they will never forget." The ship trembled as the Valiant edged closer to the massive enemy. Every meter was tense, every second crucial. The crew could feel the heat, the power, the threat radiating from the unknown vessel. Yet, through fear, determination shone brighter than ever. "Prepare the core," Arlen ordered. "We will destabilize it. On my mark, we hit." Rana's fingers moved with precision over the controls. The hum of the core grew louder, energy rippling through the ship. The Valiant vibrated violently. Sparks flew from consoles, smoke filled the air. Engineers shouted as they rerouted power, some parts of the ship flickering out completely. "Mark!" Arlen shouted. The core released a massive pulse of energy. Blue-white light tore through the void, striking the enemy. The massive shadow quivered, glowing brighter in some places, darkening in others. Energy rippled across its surface, and for a moment, it seemed to hesitate, an almost human pause. "Now!" Arlen shouted. The Valiant's weapons opened fire, every shot aimed at the areas destabilized by the core pulse. Energy beams, plasma rounds, and torpedoes struck with precision. Explosions lit the darkness, scattering glowing fragments across space. The enemy shuddered violently, more massive than the human mind could grasp, but reacting like a wounded beast. The Valiant, though small, had managed to land the first real strike. The crew cheered, but the victory was short-lived. Red energy flared along the enemy's surface. A low, rumbling sound echoed through space. The shadow moved. Slowly, but inevitably, it shifted toward the Valiant. "Brace for counterattack," Arlen shouted. The ship shook violently as the massive enemy unleashed its energy. The Valiant's shields held for a moment, then began to fail. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, and fire raged through damaged corridors. Every crew member fought to hold position, hearts pounding, eyes wide. "Captain, it's huge," one soldier shouted. "I know," Arlen replied. "But we're still alive. And as long as we're alive, we fight." The massive enemy loomed closer, enormous energy beams carving the void, threatening to crush the Valiant completely. But the crew of humanity's last warship did not flinch. They had survived the impossible once. They would do it again. Arlen's hand rested on the console, eyes burning with determination. "Prepare for the next move. This is far from over. Humanity does not surrender. Not today. Not ever." And in the cold, vast darkness of space, the massive shadow waited, watching, growing, preparing to strike. The Valiant trembled, but refused to bow. Humanity's last warship was ready for the next battle. The massive shadow loomed over the Valiant, a predator in the void, pulsating with energy so vast it made stars seem small. Every sensor on the ship screamed danger. Every heartbeat on board was loud in the silence between attacks. Captain Arlen stood on the bridge, jaw tight, eyes focused. Humanity's last warship was battered, but it still had one chance, a final strike. "Captain," Jay said, voice tense, "our weapons alone won't pierce its hull again. We'll need to use the core pulse, and time it perfectly." Arlen nodded slowly. "Then we make it count. Every second, every shot, every spark of energy. Humanity will not be erased today." Rana's hands flew over the controls, rerouting every remaining ounce of energy to the core and weapon systems. Sparks flew, lights flickered, and the hum of the ship grew louder than ever. The Valiant trembled as if alive, aware of the danger, aware of its purpose. "Core ready," Rana said, her voice steady despite the exhaustion in her eyes. "All weapons charged." "Good," Arlen replied. "Lock onto weak points exposed by the last pulse. When we strike together." The enemy shadow shifted slowly, sensing the Valiant, pulsing with deadly energy. The red glow on its surface spread like fire, warning of the power it could unleash. The bridge crew held their breath. Outside, the void seemed impossibly vast, yet every second brought the predator closer. "Brace for impact," Arlen said quietly. "We hit, we survive if we can. We fail, and humanity loses more than just a warship. We lose hope." Jace tapped the tactical panel. "Approach vector calculated. If we fire now, the energy pulse will destabilize the core structure, and our weapons can hit the central energy node directly." Arlen's hand rested lightly on the console. "Do it." Rana activated the core. The ship trembled violently, the hum growing into a roar. Blue-white energy spread through every system. Sparks shot across the bridge. Engineers shouted over alarms. The Valiant vibrated like a living being, ready to leap into the impossible. "Now!" Arlen shouted. The core released a massive pulse. Energy ripped across space, striking the enemy's surface. The red glow twisted and shrank, pulsing violently. The massive shadow wobbled, as if staggered. "Fire everything!" Arlen shouted. Turrets, plasma cannons, torpedoes, every weapon discharged in perfect synchronization. Streams of blue-white energy streaked across space, striking weak points exposed by the destabilized hull. Explosions tore along the enemy's body, metal and energy ripping apart. The ship shuddered violently as the Predator fought back, releasing waves of energy, red arcs of pure destruction tearing the void. The Valiant groaned, sparks flying, walls cracking. Crew members held their positions, gripping consoles, bracing against the tremors. "Shields failing," someone yelled. "Keep firing," Arlen roared. "We fight to the last spark." The enemy staggered again, larger pieces of its hull breaking away, exposing the glowing core inside. The Valiant's main cannon, powered by the ship's almost dying reactor, fired directly at the exposed energy node. The blast struck true. The core of the massive shadow imploded, energy spreading outward like a star dying in reverse. The Valiant shook violently as the shockwave tore through space. Alarms screamed. Sparks rained down. Smoke filled every corridor. And then, silence. The massive shadow was no longer moving. Debris floated through the void, remnants of what had seemed invincible. For a moment, the Valiant floated alone, battered, broken, but alive. Captain Arlen stood, breathing heavily, staring at the empty space where the enemy had loomed. The crew around him cheered, tears and sweat mixing. They had survived the impossible. Humanity's last warship had done what seemed unthinkable. Rana collapsed into a chair, exhausted. We did it," she whispered. Jace smiled faintly. "We survived." Arlen looked out the window at the stars. "Yes, we survived. But the galaxy is not quiet. This was only the beginning. They will rebuild. They will return. And when they do..." He turned to his crew, eyes burning with determination. "We will be ready. Humanity never surrenders. We fight, we endure, and we win, no matter the odds." Outside, debris from the destroyed shadow drifted through space, a silent monument to the courage of a few humans against the impossible. The Valiant, scarred but alive, floated among the stars, engines flickering, lights dim but burning with life. Somewhere, in the endless void, new threats waited. But humanity had proven one thing: nothing could stop them when they refused to bow. Captain Arlen rested his hand on the console, eyes glowing with determination. "We fight for every star, every world, every life. We are humanity. And we will never fall." The crew of the Valiant stood together, battered, exhausted, and triumphant. The galaxy was vast, dark, and dangerous, but humanity's heart, beating in the hull of a single warship, had sent a message across the stars. "We will survive. We will endure. And nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop us."